Okay, good morning, grade 11. I'm just going to explain in this video what we're doing, or what you're going to be doing for this week's lessons. Obviously, as you know, there is a change of the timetable. Basically, period 1 and period 4, I will be available for questions. There will be times when I will want to schedule lessons, for example, on a Wednesday or during Monday, period 1, Tuesday, period 4. I'm going to set you a task, obviously, at the start of the week, and, we'll keep in touch about the best way, whether we need to schedule a class, and what questions you have. So, we're going to be looking at themes, motifs, and symbols in Macbeth for this week. So hopefully by the end of this lesson, or the end of this week, you'll be able to define sort of themes and symbols and motifs and what the differences are between them, and you will have analysed the themes and motifs and symbols in Macbeth. So what is a theme? Obviously we looked at a theme in Persepolis, and you've looked at themes before, but just to recap, a theme is a central idea or message that is interwoven throughout the novel. So for example, a theme in Macbeth would be the danger of unchecked ambition. And of course, sort of Macbeth is initially a loyal and brilliant general, but the witch's prophecy really plants the ambition in his head of being king, which you've got to remember is the ultimate ambition for people such as Macbeth, the nobleman. And sort of Lady Macbeth doesn't really help here, and Macbeth is driven to commit murder several times as events spiral out of control. And with each act of violence, he loses any sense of reality, and his only ambition becomes really to hold onto power. So what is a motif? How is a motif different? So, a motif can be seen as an image, it can be a sound or an action that has symbolic significance, and it contributes towards the development of a theme. Motifs tend to be recurring. So think of it like this: a motif is sort of like a symbol, but it contributes towards the development of a theme. Okay, and it happens repeatedly. So for example, a motif in Macbeth would be violence. And obviously this is linked to the theme I just talked about, the danger of unchecked ambition. I mean, Macbeth's a very violent play. And it's interesting that most of the violence, for example, the battles at the beginning, most of the murders actually happen off stage and we only see the repercussions, but there's a lot of death in this play. And because Macbeth takes the throne by violence, he is paranoid that the same fate is going to befall him. So he has to use increasingly violent methods to keep control. So that's an example of a motif, because violence is repeated throughout the play, but it is linked to the theme. And so last but not least, we have symbols. So what is a symbol? So this is sort of easy. It's a symbol, an idea, a sound, or a word that represents something else, and it maybe helps us to understand something. So symbols don't have to be connected to a theme, and they often only appear once or twice. Violence is throughout the play, but the symbol we're going to look at, the weather, there are only sort of maybe 2 or 3 examples of this being used in the play. And obviously the weather is used, Shakespeare uses lots of pathetic fallacy in Macbeth. And it really sort of symbolizes the evil that's about to happen. So, for example, the witches, they meet in foul weather, and at night Duncan is murdered, there's a huge thunderstorm. So this sort of helps us to understand the weather, that bad things are happening. Okay, so symbols aren't connected to a theme, but they help us to understand something better. Okay, so what you're going to do is nice and simple. I've made a Google Doc for each of you, kind of like that, and you see we have some themes. I've chosen 3 themes. There are more than 3 themes in Macbeth. These, as with Persepolis, these are just some examples of themes. So we have the danger of unchecked ambition, and I've given some examples of how that is shown in each act. So what you need to do is you need to go through and you need to find some quotes to show this. Okay? Another theme, theme number 2, the relationship between cruelty and masculinity. Okay, and again, There are examples. You need to fill in a quote. And last but not least, supernatural upsetting natural order. Same again, find a quote that shows these. These quotes are really important because it will massively help you later. So then you just need to find examples of 2 motifs from Macbeth. Type your motif. I've given you an example of violence, and find some examples in the text. It doesn't have to be quotes, but some examples. And the same for symbols. I've given you the example of the weather, symbols from Macbeth. So once you've done that, okay, because remember this is a week's work, this isn't a lesson's work, you need to transfer this work to your study guide. You can copy and paste if you want. You may find that for themes you want a multiple, 1 page per section. You may not want this in a table, you think it looks boring. It's up to you, but basically this information needs to be transferred to your study guide. So find a way to do this. And last but not least, what you have to do this week as well is you have to basically, in your classes, you have to post questions or comments that show you're engaged in the lesson. And this is one of the ways that the school's going to measure your attendance, so we're not just clicking, previously I think some students were possibly just clicking their attendance and then watching YouTube videos for the rest of the time, which I'm sure was none of you. But so write your name and write a comment or question. So I don't mean, don't write, Mr. Stewart, where is the Google Docs? That doesn't count that you're engaged in the lesson. That just shows you haven't read the instructions properly. I mean, what have you learned about themes? What have you learned about symbols? What have you learned about motifs? What questions do you have about themes? Okay, and as ever, I will be available to help you with this on Google Hangouts. And good luck. Let me know if you have any problems. And enjoy the week. Thanks.